Hello Scorpio, and welcome to your in-depth horoscope forecast for October for the Sun or the Ascendant. I'm going to give you the broad themes to look out for this month, but please stay with me. I will then dive deep to give you in forensic detail all the key influences, particularly specific to your sign. And I have to say, Scorpio, there is one absolutely scintillating event, and that is on the 25th of this month, when the Sun and Venus combine in your sign around the solar eclipse, and that's going to provide a backdrop for the next 6 months. But we need to be mindful of your two rulers. Mars, in a very passionate and intense part of your situation, is squaring up with Neptune right through this month and exactly on the 12th. So we need to look at that very carefully. Also, Pluto, in your sector of everyday communications, is clashing with the Sun and Venus on the 19th. So I'll share more about that. But you do have the excitement of the Sun and Venus joining your sign on the 23rd, that solar eclipse, but then Mercury moving into your sign on the 28th. So much to share with you. But if you would like to ascend above this zodiac broadcast and embrace more serious astrology, if you give me 3 pieces of personal birth data of time, date and place of birth, I can give you a roadmap that can guide you for the rest of your life, plus your 2023 forecast and the rest of 2022 free in my special package and 30% off. Please see the link beneath this video. Now, if you've yet to subscribe to my channel, I'd be honoured if you did so now. Please click or tap on the bell notification symbol. If you've already done so, thank you so much for your ongoing support. So Scorpio, as you make your way into this month, Mercury, the planet of communication, in one of its 2 home zones of Virgo, is actually in retrograde through to the 2nd. This may be a point in your thinking where you're trying to clarify what your future plans may be. And Mercury, because it has gone through a transition through your 12th house, through the 26th of August through to the 23rd of September, has been introducing a degree of doubt, I feel, for some while. But because Neptune is opposite Mercury, that can create even more uncertainty. Now, Mars is in your traditional ruler, is in a very powerful and passionate and deep part of your situation, but T-squaring these 2 positions. So whether it's around your love life, your friendships, or your future prospects, you may have several options, but be finding it hard to decide exactly which to go for. The key at this point of the month is to keep the faith, because by the 8th, Pluto, your ruler, ends a retrograde which began on the 29th of April. And if some of your thinking has been a little bit deeper during that period of time, or your thoughts around your belief systems, or some of the conversations you've had have been really quite probing, it wouldn't be a surprise. But I think Pluto ending that retrograde is going to release you a little bit from some of the intensity of that thinking. Now, also on the 9th, we have a full moon in the part of your horoscope to do with life's practicalities, the details. A very Virgoan energy, but actually manifesting through the sign of Aries, which of course is very much about initiation. But because the Sun and Venus are tucked together in your 12th house, even though Venus can provide a veneer from life's realities, maybe there is something that needs to be in some way recalibrated around the balance of your physical activities and how you feel about things. Because feeling is very important for a water sign like you, and you can feel things as deep as anyone at all. So as much as the Sun and Venus together in the 12th house could see you very reflective around relationships. You also need to keep one foot on terra firma, the 6th house. Be as realistic as you can. Now, there is a grand air trine which is manifested through this particular lunation. Part of it includes Mars, your ruler. Then we have the Sun and Venus together, and then Saturn, the planet of structure, in your sector of emotion. So although these are all in air signs, the energy is coming through house 12, very Piscean, house 4, very Cancerian, Saturn, and house 8, very Scorpionic, Mars. So I feel that it's important to discuss and think things, but act upon those thoughts in a feeling way. And that grand air trine gives you a real opportunity. So this particular lunation, even though it is a full moon, and that can bring some issues to the fore, and it could still do so this time, I feel it gives you a potential to actually relaunch some kind of approaches to your life that can be very helpful and dynamic to you. Now, what are the challenges? Well, the 12th house in traditional astrology, where the Sun and Venus are located and where Mercury arrives on the 10th, that's the part in traditional astrology of a chart linked to what's known as secret enemies. Now, this may not be necessarily people who are sitting there plotting to undermine you, but maybe there are people you have to work with that you don't quite align with. Maybe it's neighbours that you kind of say hello to, but you don't have too much in common. Those kind of relationships can obviously be a little bit wounding, but the people who really hurt us are the people that we've opened up to who aren't necessarily sincere. So that may be what that full moon is going to tease out, because Venus is an interesting influence, particularly through its governorship of the sign of Libra, because it can be superficially very pleasant, but underneath that it can hide deeper emotions. And this is particularly true when we get to the 19th of this month, and your modern ruler Pluto goes into a square with these two. And because Pluto's in your 3rd house of everyday communications, this could be a point in the month when suddenly some energy comes right out into the open, but it may not be very pleasant. So for example, someone may have said something rather spiteful and you'll get to hear about it, or some gossip is doing the rounds. This kind of stuff, pretty challenging. And because we feel that Venus is so gracious and charming, and it's very much to do with how we dress and presentation, but we mustn't be fooled. Very often with Venus there can be some kind of synthetic presentation which underneath people can feel very differently. Now, you have a gift for cutting through and seeing where people are being real. And in fact, in week 2, as that lunation unfolds, the Sun and Venus continue to be anchored by Saturn in your 4th house. And that's going to help you to really see who's being genuine, who's being frank, who may not necessarily be or want to be your best friend, but actually is being honest. And that could be something you really respect. Now, the other challenge of this month is that Mars, your ruling planet traditionally, is squaring up with Neptune. Neptune's in the 5th house, very much to do with the desires we have to play, to flirt, to socialise, to mix and mingle, to have joys in life. And Mars is in a much more impulsive, intense, and in need of instant gratification in the 8th house, but also a need for some kind of confrontation. The 8th house energy competing with the 5th house energy suggests you could be drawn to someone sexually this month who may really make your heart race, but whether you'd ever really get to the bottom of what their motives are is another matter. Then again, this could be you. So that influence peaks on the 12th, but it's also going to be very prevalent in November too, and peaks then on the 19th, and then it's going to show itself again next March. Now the 23rd, however, is a really brilliant day, perhaps a day that you can truly celebrate, because Saturn ends its retrograde, which began on the 4th of June in your sector of emotion. But on the same day, Venus and the Sun move into your sign. So if you have been going through some very deep and profound transformations or discussions or thoughts, or trying to get an understanding of what the reality of certain associations or people's attitudes are really about, you're going to come right into your own focus, into the present on the 23rd, and you're really going to feel that uplift. And then on the 25th, that glorious solar eclipse in your sign, but aligned with Venus. So Venus conjunct the Sun in the first house gives you an enormous opportunity to take a firmer grip on your life direction. Now, being a fixed sign, you do like, for a planet that appreciates change, because obviously your co-ruler Pluto is very much about change, and for you, very often you have very long periods of continuity, and then massive changes come all at once. But I think this is the beginning of a new cycle for you. So this first house energy could see you change how you dress, change how you have your hair. It could change some of your thinking. It could see you inject ongoing strands that are really important for you with much more creativity and verve. Or it can see you start things afresh. So the next 6 months can see you really in dynamic form. But if you are single, this energy can draw lots of admiring glances your way over that time, and perhaps some new people beating a path to your door. Now the 28th sees Jupiter reverse out of the most practical part of your scope into your 5th house to join up with Neptune. Now, although Jupiter continues to rotate backwards through to November the 23rd, having Jupiter in the 5th house to support the more murky and distorting energies of Neptune is great for you. It is going to be going back into that practical area for the last 10 days of the year, so good news about a job could still come further into the year. But on the 25th to the 29th, Mercury is being challenged by Pluto. So once more, like we had with the Pluto square on Venus and the Sun, something can come out into the open just when you're getting going and you're thinking, oh my God, are people really conspiring against me? But I feel that once Mercury's into your sign on the 29th, you're going to feel much more secure. It is true that Mars starts a retrograde on the 30th, and that does last through to January the 12th. And I think when it comes to how you make money, Mars in the 8th house, and of course Gemini is the host, which is very agile with thoughts and communication. But Mars in the 8th house can see you thinking less about acquisition, and I think more about appreciation of perhaps the qualities that you have in your life, particularly around close associations. Now, we all know that we're facing quite a substantive cost of living crisis, but I think Mars could make you quite ingenious here about how you can squeeze a bit more out of any existing resources you have. But because it is squared with Neptune throughout November as much as this month, there is still the potential for some uncertainty around your romantic sphere. But I feel that the Sun and Venus coming into your own sign certainly gives you the desire to really live in your power, strut your stuff, raise your chin, really receive the attention that you deserve. Because after some of the more underwhelming and psychological energy earlier this month, you really go through a transition where the sun can shine on you in quite a significant way.